To remove the dashboard, things that need to come out. You can see I've actually removed much of the center console that doesn't need to come out. The only thing that needs to come out of the middle here is the PCM, because obviously this piece will stay here, but this, like I said, lift up over the top, because the dashboard actually slots into this piece up behind here. So we need to have the A-frame trim removed, which requires basically the whole trim along the windshield to be removed for the Boxer. Not sure about the Cayman, but certainly because of the hooks and everything for the convertible roof, the whole, you need to start from the center and move to the outside and then to be able to remove the A-frame trim. There are some little antenna connectors here. Make sure you remove those, get the wires and everything out of the way, and then put these nuts back on and thread them in as far as they can go so the heads of the stud is just pointing out, because it's going to be a really tight fit going around these. Then the trim on the outside here will have been removed because we've had to remove the glove box. And on the other side, we've got the instrument cluster, the steering wheel, the steering wheel switch, so for your indicators and that sort of thing. We've got the vents all removed, and either the stopwatch or the switches in here are all removed. And with that, the screws that need to come out, there are two on either side here. This is also clipped on in, but you just remove those two screws. There are two E-Torx 8 screws either side of the airbag that need to be removed. There's an E-Torx 8 that actually goes through here. There's a hole in the top here of the PCM little box here that needs to be removed. In addition to that, you need to have 4 screws removed that actually hold the dashboard to this PCM box. There are 2 there, and there are 2 up inside here that also need to be removed. On the other side here, obviously we've got the instrument cluster, steering wheel, etc. all removed. The trim from underneath here, because it clips into this, needs to be removed as well. We can push through the cables for the instrument cluster. And on the right hand side here, obviously we've got the vents with the cables disconnected as well. And again, the antenna thing that sits there, I've disconnected all of those, put the nuts back in, and I've actually just taped up the cords and everything to the side just to keep those out of the way so they don't get in the way of anything. Here is the dashboard when it's out of the car. I flipped it upside down just so I can prop it up and actually show you where all the connections are. It probably looks a bit weird. I'll flip it around so it's the right way up in the video. Starting from one side to the other, there are 2 connections here on the side, and this actually clips onto that side piece that's part of the bracing behind the dashboard, so you need to pull those sideways to remove the dashboard. You've got the 2 E-Torx screws here. There's an E-Torx screw there. There's one there and there. Those 4 there are for the instrument cluster, so don't confuse those. There and there. And then on the other side there are another 2 of those screws that need to come out, and again that's clipped in. In addition to that, there are the screws that need to be removed so that the bit here that holds the PCM can come off. There's that one there and that one there, so they screw into that bit, but also it goes down there, and there's some that go, you reach inside that piece of plastic, that thing that holds the PCM, and unscrew those 2 there. Electrical connections that you need to disconnect on the underside. You've got the 2 temperature sensors on the duct. There's one there, and there's one in the equivalent position on the other side. You'll have the tweeter cord that sort of wraps around here, so you can just have that so it's dangling free. You've got the 2 connections on the driver's side, sorry, the passenger side airbag. They're those typical airbag. You pull out the plunger just with a pick tool, and then the thing comes off sideways. In addition to that, you've got the ground connection there, and to remove that, that's actually got a little press, even though it's metal, it's got a little press thing to actually remove it, the plunger from the hole there, so that comes off easily. And apart from that, that's pretty much it just prior to removing it from the car. To remove this speaker cover here, there are 6 clips, so there, and here, and then at the back. The ones at the side here are especially tight. What I suggest, get a prying tool like that and then lift that up for the first couple, and then you actually need to, and I've removed this so it's coming up a little bit more easily, but then you need a pretty good lever to sort of get under there and then pop that up. And it takes a fair bit of force. Like that. And then you can get around the back and pop the rear two out. And they come out. And then at the back here, you've got the little speaker down in there, as well as the connection for the solar sensor, which is sitting on the top there. And removing this is actually a bit of a pain. So I would suggest putting a cloth over the top like that, and a cloth over the bottom and the speaker so you don't damage it. I'm not sure if you can see, actually I'll just do it here. What we're trying to do is we're trying to push in on that little bit there, like that, and it's going to separate from that there. But the problem is that because of this surround here, getting your thumb in there is close to impossible, so you kind of need to have it like this and then somehow pull it down. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to use 2 screwdrivers. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. I'm going to push it in and then I'm going to lever that out. And it just is a pain to get out. I don't know why they use this particular type of clip. Obviously you need to be careful of that speaker whilst you're doing this. There you go. God, that is hard work. And be careful of that speaker. It would be very, very easy to damage that. And to remove the speaker, there are 3 T20 Torx screws. There's one there, and this is the tool that I'm using. As you can see, it's not very big, but there's not much room between there and the windscreen. For those 2, it's not so bad, but this one back here, obviously, I'm at a bit of a squeeze, so I'm going to have to go and find another tool for that. So this is what I've ended up resorting to, that same Torx bit, but just with a 1/4 inch ring spanner on the end of it, just to do those last couple of turns to get that out, but there's not much room to move there at all. And once those 3 screws are out, that electrical connector can be disconnected. If you've got the sports chrono, you'll need to remove the dot watch from here, but if you don't, then this one here, especially with these vents out, you just push it out from the rear and there'll be a single electrical connection on the other side that you'll need to disconnect. If you go to remove the dashboard, something that was obvious after I'd actually removed it was the position of the louvers on the air conditioning unit behind there. You'll notice here I've got it on the foot wells there. If I open up the center ones, it'll actually open up these and stick these up, which means, let me just push that, that's how they were when I actually removed the dashboard. Now that might be able to pull that over the top. It probably wouldn't have been too nice for it. But certainly trying to put that back on is not going to work, and it's something that they didn't mention in the workshop manual. So I would be making sure that I've just got the footwell selected. Don't have the ventilation vents for along the windscreen. That's what those flaps are there, lifting when I press the ventilation button. To remove the A-pillar trim along the sides here, you actually need to start from the center and remove all of this because it actually all overlaps over the top of each other. So the first thing you want to do is remove the light console from the center there. Get a pick tool, and underneath there, which is facing towards you sitting in the car, open that up and there'll be clips on the inside, but that'll just pop straight out. There'll be a single electrical connector that you'll need to disconnect. And then from there you'll have, and it just sort of sits like that. This is the latch receiver for the convertible roof. There'll be 3 screws there that need to be removed. Turn that over. There's an electrical connector, it actually rotates out. There's a little hook in under there and it rotates out, and you just pull that out. For the visor, there are two parts to it. The first bit here, the people who previously owned this car just reefed these out and broken these. But on this is the thing that actually latches over that. But over the top of this here, there's a little clip or a little cover that you'll need to unclip, remove that screw, then that'll come out. Excuse the noise, it's raining outside on the shed roof. Meant to remove the visor itself. There's the cover there. You just need to get a little pick tool and unclip that off. There are going to be two screws underneath that. Remove those. The thing will just sit there by that. It won't actually just fall down on you, and then you can wiggle it out and it'll come free. And then from there you'll need to remove either, these are sort of push in together like that, and you can remove one or the other at a time, it doesn't really matter, but there'll be a single screw there that needs to be removed. And I'll just disconnect that so I can show you the other side. And then when we're pulling that out, there's a guide pin here, but there's this big plunger that sticks into the actual windscreen frame. That'll actually take a fair bit of force to pull that out. And once you pop that out, then you can just get your hand underneath here and just pull that sideways. There are two clips here that it feeds into. And along the side here, this just slides down the side of the dashboard. So it'll just pull straight out of that once this is pulled sideways. What will probably also come with it is this piece of trim that runs down the side of the dashboard. That just slides onto that thing there. So if that comes with it, like that, you can just pull it straight off. These antenna connection points here on the A-frame just get in the way for removal, but especially install. So I'm just going to remove those. You can easily just pull those antenna connections off. These ones here just pull out, and then you can just disconnect that other one there, and that can just be put aside. And you can see it looks like they've actually had tape in from the factory to sort of keep those out of the way when they install. 10mm nuts there, which will allow you just to remove that out of the way and put that back on later on. To remove the steering column switch here, obviously you need to remove the airbag, then the steering wheel and the trim on the top and the bottom of it. Have a look at the interior trim video that I did for how to remove those. And then once this is off, and it's close to impossible to film this, but I'll just show you after I pulled it out. It's basically held just by a single screw there that clamps down around that there, and then that just slides straight off. But before then, there are two electrical connections. There's that one there, which slots into that spot there. So that's actually going to be, you'll have to get your head in underneath here to do that. And it has a single button on the side there that you press in, that just pops out nicely. And this one here actually goes in at the front under there. You'll actually need to get a screwdriver in there and really push it in a fair way, and once you do that enough, it actually just pops straight out, which is nice. There's a whole bunch of other connection stuff here. You don't have to touch any of those, it's just those two. In addition, you've got these things here that just presses into the back, into there, and that one there is just gripping onto one of those. I can't remember which one it is, but it's pretty obvious when you get around there. You just need to pry that one out, that just pulls straight out, and this one you just lever that off. And then once that's released, the thing just pops straight off. Right, so this is what I've found as the key, having done this a few times now, of actually removing the dashboard. Firstly, those antenna connections on the side, make sure you remove those, put the nuts back on, just to stop it marring the dashboard. The connections for the instrument cluster, you can push those through, and then it is millimetre perfect to get this thing out. And what I've found is that if you try and put it in sort of straight, it won't actually go in, it just hits all these nuts on the side here. So what you need to do is pull it out and then put it at an angle and actually lift it up. The A-frame trim, or the bit that actually holds onto the A-frame trim, you need to lift up one side above that, and then that actually gives you enough to be able to lift it above the piece here that holds the PCM, and then the thing will come out. And basically the reverse for installation. So unclip it at the sides first. And we can just pull it rearward a little bit, just to keep it out of those clips. They tend tend to want to just jump back in there straight away. Lift it up a little bit. And now it's popped out of those clips at the back, left and right. Those little flaps will just open up all by themselves. And now, I'm not sure if you can see, but it's hard up against one of those screws there, and it's not cleared there. So what I'm going to do is pull it this way and lift it up on that side, and then it just comes straight out. Magic. Okay, so before you start, make sure those flaps there are open, because those slots are going to go in there. Then I'm going to put that one high, this one below those screws. Once it's cleared the PCM box here, now I can just gently maneuver it down. I can now put the cords through for the instrument cluster. And now I can look in here and make sure that they are, unfortunately that's closed on me again. Make sure it goes underneath the clip at the front. Same on the other side. When it's nearly all the way in, then you can reach on in and clip those down. You can hear those clip down. There we go. And then you can push them in until they clip in at the sides. There we go.